The night I passed my nursing boards, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and cried for 20 minutes straight, not because I was sad, because I had done it. Because 18-year-old me, the girl who used to fall asleep doing homework at the kitchen table while my younger sister watched TV at full volume in the next room, had actually done it. I called my mother first. She picked up on the fourth ring. I could hear my sister laughing in the background, and the familiar clinking of dishes, and the television. The sounds of a house that had always been slightly too loud for me to think inside. "Mom," I said. I passed. There was a pause. Then she said, "Oh, that's wonderful, honey. Your sister just got back from her trip to Cancun. You should see her tan." I sat with that for a second. "Did you hear what I said? I passed my boards. I'm a registered nurse." Yes, I heard you. That's great. I'm so proud. Come over this weekend, okay? Your sister brought back this hot sauce your father loves, and we're doing a big dinner." I said okay. I said I'd be there. I hung up and sat in the dark parking lot for another 10 minutes, watching other nurses walk to their cars. Some of them laughing, some of them exhausted, all of them going home to something. Then I drove to my apartment. My small, imperfect, completely mine apartment. And I opened a bottle of sparkling water, because I don't drink, and I toasted myself in the bathroom mirror. And I said out loud, to no one, I did it. I actually did it. That moment belongs to me. It always will. Even after everything that came after. I should tell you about my sister. Her name is Daniela, and she is 3 years younger than me. And she has always been the kind of beautiful that makes strangers stop mid-sentence. She got my mother's cheekbones and my father's easy confidence. And from the time she was about 12 years old, every room we entered together tilted slightly in her direction. I learned not to mind. Or I learned to tell myself I didn't mind, which is a different thing, but it gets you through the day. Growing up, Daniela wasn't cruel to me. That's important to say. She wasn't mean. She was simply present, loudly, effortlessly present, in a way that made me feel like I was standing slightly behind a curtain at all times. My parents loved us both. I believe that. But loving two people equally and giving them equal space are not the same thing. And our house was always more Daniela's than mine. She dropped out of community college after 1 semester. My parents paid her rent for the next 2 years while she figured things out. She took a trip to Europe at 22. They covered the flights. She got a car at 24. They co-signed the loan. None of this was discussed with me. None of it involved me. I had taken out loans for nursing school, worked night shifts at a call center, eaten a lot of peanut butter sandwiches, and not once asked them for $1 after I turned 19. Not because I was noble, because I knew, the way you just know certain things and certain families, that the math wouldn't work in my favor. I was not the golden child. I was the capable one. And in families like mine, those are very different things to be. By the time I was 29, I had been a registered nurse for 4 years. I had paid off one of my 2 student loans. I had a savings account that made me feel, for the first time in my life, like the ground beneath me was solid. And I had applied, mostly as an exercise in hoping for something, to a first-time homebuyer program in my county. I got it. The house was a small 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, 40 minutes from where I grew up. It had original hardwood floors that creaked in 3 specific spots I quickly memorized. It had a kitchen window that looked out onto a magnolia tree. It had a crack in the bathroom ceiling that the inspector had assured me was cosmetic, and which I painted over the first weekend I moved in, standing on a step stool in my pajamas at 7 in the morning, just because I could. It was mine. Every inch of it was mine. I decided to have a housewarming. Not a party, exactly. I'm not a party person. More of a dinner. My parents, my sister, my Aunt Patricia, who had always been kind to me, my 2 closest friends from the hospital, Keisha and Laurel. 12 people total. I bought real tablecloths. I made my grandmother's baked ziti from memory. I bought flowers from the farmer's market, sunflowers and white dahlias, and put them in mason jars on every surface because I'd seen someone do that in a magazine once, and I had always wanted a home where that was a thing I did. I sent the invitation 3 weeks ahead, confirmed with everyone a week out. My mother said they'd all be there. My sister texted a thumbs-up emoji, which was more than I usually got. The Saturday of the dinner, I woke up at 7 and started cooking. By noon, the ziti was done. The salad was prepped. The garlic bread was wrapped in foil, ready to go in the oven. The table was set with the real tablecloths. The sunflowers were open and golden in their mason jars. I put on a dress. I did my hair. I sat in my kitchen and felt something I can only describe as fullness. That specific warmth of a life you built with your own hands, about to be witnessed by the people you love. At 2 o'clock, Keisha texted that she was on her way. At 2:15, Laurel arrived with a bottle of sparkling cider and a housewarming card that made me tear up in the doorway. At 2:30, my Aunt Patricia called to say she had a migraine and was so sorry and she'd come see the house next week, she promised. At 3, no one else had texted. At 3:20, I called my mother. She picked up right away, which somehow made it worse. "Hey, honey, are you at the house?" "Mom, I am the house." "The dinner started at 3. Where are you?" A pause. The sound of wind or a car. An outside sound. "Oh, Maya?" Her voice went soft in the way that meant she was about to tell me something I wasn't going to like. "We're at Daniela's. She had some news today, and your father and we wanted to be with her." "I meant to text you." I stood in my kitchen with 12 play settings and enough ziti to feed a small army, and I said, very quietly, "What news?" "She's moving. She found an apartment finally. And she found a car she loves. We went to look at it and you know how these things go. The dealer had an opening today and you're at a car dealership. We're supporting her, honey. She's been struggling, you know that." Keisha was watching me from across the kitchen. She had heard enough. Her face had gone very still in the way that meant she was holding back something fierce on my behalf. And I loved her for it. And I shook my head slightly, which meant not yet. "Mom," I said, "I invited you 3 weeks ago. I confirmed last week. I made dinner for 12 people. I bought flowers." I know, and I'm sorry. We'll come next weekend, I promise." "I'm not doing this next weekend, Mom. This is today. This is the dinner." Another pause, and then my father's voice in the background, low, saying something I couldn't hear. And then my mother, slightly away from the phone, "She's upset about the dinner." And then my father's voice again. And then my mother back to me, "Your father wants to talk to you." And then my father, who has a voice made for announcements, said, "Maya, your sister needed us today. I needed you today too. Your sister has been having a hard time. You know that. You're stable. You have your career, your house. You don't need us the same way she does. I want you to understand that this sentence, 'You don't need us the same way she does,' is one I had been hearing in various forms my entire life. Sometimes it was a compliment. Maya's so independent. Sometimes it was an excuse. You understand, you're the responsible one. Sometimes it was simply the architecture of our family, invisible and load-bearing, shaping everything without anyone choosing it. That day, standing in my kitchen with sunflowers on every surface, I heard it differently. "I have to go," I said. "My guests are here. We'll come next week. Goodbye, Dad." I hung up. Keisha looked at me. Laurel had appeared in the kitchen doorway. "How hungry are you guys?" I said. Keisha picked up a fork. "Starving." We ate. The 3 of us, at a table set for 12, ate the entire pan of ziti. We talked about everything except my family. Laurel told us about a patient who had tried to bribe her with a gift card. Keisha made me laugh so hard I almost choked. The afternoon light came through my kitchen window and landed on the magnolia tree outside, and my house looked exactly the way I had imagined it. At 5:30, I heard a knock at the door. My parents were standing on my porch. Daniela was behind them, holding a small gift bag with tissue paper coming out the top. My father looked the way he always looked, composed, unhurried, as if arriving 2.5 hours late to his daughter's housewarming was a reasonable thing that required no acknowledgement. "We wanted to see the place," he said. I stepped back and let them in because I did not yet know how to do anything else. My mother walked through the living room saying things like, "Oh, this is nice. And look at these floors," and I watched her touch the doorframe with 2 fingers, the way you do when you're cataloging something. Daniela handed me the gift bag without meeting my eyes. Inside was a candle. The label said it was on clearance. The sticker was still on it. I don't say that to be mean. I say it because it was the most honest thing in the room. We stood in my kitchen. My father looked at the table. The real tablecloths. the leftover mason jars, the place settings we'd cleared but hadn't put away. And he said, "Looks like we missed quite a spread." "You did," I said. He nodded slowly, the way he nods when he's deciding whether to acknowledge something or simply move past it. He chose to move past it. "So," he said, looking around, "this place has 2 bedrooms?" "It does. That second bedroom, what are you using it for?" "It's going to be a home office. I do a lot of continuing education. I need a workspace." My father looked at my mother. My mother looked at her hands. My sister examined the magnolia tree through the window with tremendous interest. "Here's the thing," my father said. "Your sister's apartment situation is falling through. The one she was going to sign today. The landlord changed the terms last minute." I waited. We were thinking, with the 2 bedrooms, it would be practical for her to stay here while she gets sorted. 6 months, maybe. A year at most. She'd pay what she can. The room was very quiet. Keisha and Laurel had gone still in the hallway. I could feel them there, steady, like ballast. "No," I said. My father looked at me. "Maya, no. This is my home. I saved for 4 years. I applied for a program. I qualified. I closed on this house by myself, and the answer is no. She's your sister. I know who she is. She needs Dad." I put my hand flat on my kitchen counter, on the counter of my kitchen, in my house. "I love Daniela, but I am not a solution to a problem that's been 40 minutes in the making. You bought her a car today. You can help her find an apartment." My father straightened. He has a way of expanding when he feels challenged, like he's taking up more of the available air. "You've always had a problem being part of this family." And there it was. The thing underneath the thing. I had heard versions of this my whole life too. "You're so closed off. You never let us in. You act like you're better than everyone." What it always meant, translated, you have boundaries we don't understand, and that makes us uncomfortable, and your discomfort is easier to manage than ours. "I love this family," I said, "and I am not letting anyone move into my house." Daniela turned from the window then, and she looked at me, and for a moment something passed across her face that was almost real. Something that was not performance. "I didn't ask them to ask you," she said quietly. "I want you to know that I believe her." I still believe her. That's the complicated part. My father gathered his jacket. My mother picked up her purse with both hands, that tight-lipped silence she does when she's choosing not to say something that would make things worse. They moved toward the door in that specific family formation I had watched my whole life. My father first, my mother just behind, my sister at the edge of the frame. At the door, my father turned back. "You'll regret choosing a house over your family." "I chose a home," I said. "I've been choosing it for years. You just weren't watching." He left. My mother left. Daniela paused at the threshold and looked at me for a moment. "It's a really beautiful house," she said. Then she was gone. I closed the door. I stood in my hallway for a long moment, my hand on the wall, feeling the solidity of it. The plaster, the paint I had chosen from 47 samples, the light switch I had replaced myself watching a YouTube tutorial at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Keisha appeared and handed me a glass of sparkling cider. "You okay?" she said. "Yeah," I said, and then, "I think so." We cleaned up together, the 3 of us, putting away the extra place settings, boxing up the leftover ziti, washing the mason jars so I could use them again. Laurel put on music, something soft and familiar. The evening came through the kitchen window and the magnolia tree went golden-it, then pink, then the quiet blue of early dark. I thought about the phone call I'd need to make eventually, the conversations ahead, the long, slow work of loving people who don't always know how to love you back the right way. None of that had disappeared. None of it was resolved. But I was standing in my house with its creaking floors and its cracked ceiling I already fixed, and its magnolia tree and its mason jar sunflowers. And that was something no one had given me. No one could take it. In the weeks after, I did some things I should have done sooner. I added my name alone to a property trust, which an attorney helped me set up for less than I expected. I put a freeze on my credit with all 3 bureaus. If you haven't done this and you have family members who know your social security number, please do it. I stopped sending money to my parents for Daniela's expenses, which had been a quiet, monthly, unacknowledged habit I'd let go on too long. I called my Aunt Patricia and told her the whole story, and she listened and she said, "Your father has always confused need with merit." I turned that sentence over in my mind for a week. My mother called me twice. The first time, she apologized for missing the dinner. The second time, she asked if I'd reconsidered the spare room. I said no, warmly and clearly, and changed the subject to something else. That's the work. That's the ongoing, unglamorous, necessary work of being someone who knows where they end and where someone else begins. Daniela got an apartment eventually. She got a roommate and a job at a boutique she seems to like. She texted me a photo of her bedroom when she moved in. It looked light and small and hopeful, and I texted back a heart and meant it. I'm not telling you this story because I have it figured out. I'm telling you because a version of you might be standing in your own kitchen right now, at a table you set for people who didn't show up, wondering if wanting something of your own makes you selfish. Wondering if needing your family to show up for you, just once, the way you have always shown up for them, is too much to ask. It isn't. It was never too much to ask. And the fact that they couldn't do it says something about them, not about what you deserve. The floors still creak in those same 3 spots. I've stopped trying to avoid them. I like the sound now. This house announcing itself under my feet, reminding me it's real, reminding me it's real. Reminding me I'm home. I chose this. I keep choosing it. And every morning I wake up inside these walls I built. I understand a little more what it means to finally, genuinely, with no asterisk, be free. There is a version of this story where I feel sorry for myself. I spent a long time living inside that version, waiting for someone to notice the weight I was carrying, waiting for the scales to tip, waiting for the moment my family would finally see me the way I had always seen them, fully, completely, with no conditions attached. That moment never came. And I think now that waiting for it was the only thing that ever truly cost me. What I have learned, not from one conversation, not from one slammed door, but from years of quiet accumulation, is that character is not something you perform when people are watching. It is what you do when the table is set and no one shows up. It is what you do when you have every right to be bitter and you choose, slowly and imperfectly, not to be. Maya cooked dinner for 12 people. She set the table with real tablecloths. She put sunflowers in mason jars because that was the kind of home she had always wanted to live in. And when her family didn't come, and then came for the wrong reasons, she still cleared the plates, washed the jars, and kept the flowers. That is not weakness. That is the quiet, daily practice of integrity. The consequences we live with are rarely dramatic. They are the small accumulations of the choices we make when no one is grading us. Maya spent years choosing self-sufficiency. Not because she was cold, but because she understood, somewhere deep and unspoken, that her foundation had to be built by her own hands or it would not hold. Those years of night shifts, of peanut butter sandwiches, of loan payments and nursing boards and apartment leases signed alone, all of it was cause. The house, the savings, the ability to stand in her own kitchen and say no with steadiness rather than rage, that was effect. The people who never had to build anything rarely understand the people who did. They see the house and think resource. They see the stability and think surplus. They do not see the years. They cannot, because they were not there for them. But here is what I want you to take from Maya's story. If you are someone carrying something heavy right now, intelligence is not only what you know. It is knowing the difference between love and obligation, between family and habit, between a relationship worth repairing and one that only works when you are giving and never receiving. It takes real clarity of mind to look at the people you were raised with, the people you love, and understand that loving them does not require disappearing inside their needs. And resilience is not the absence of pain. Maya cried in a parking lot the night she passed her boards, alone, because the person she called had already moved on to her sister's tan. That moment was real. It hurt the way real things hurt. Not dramatically, but deeply, in the place where you keep your oldest hopes. Resilience is not pretending that didn't happen. It is eating the ziti anyway. It is washing the mason jars so you can use them again. You are allowed to build something for yourself. You are allowed to protect it. You are allowed to love people and still refuse to let them dismantle what you built with your own hands, year by careful year. That is not selfishness. That is the most honest form of self-respect I know.